All right, we are just about set.
Sounds good.
We have coffee, we have mysterious cards.
Yes.
We've taken over the dining room with camera and lights.
I think we're ready to go.
I believe so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so for the start of main phase 1, I will tap 2 and summon a podcast live stream.
I'm sure there is a deck theme for podcasting. If not,
Not
there
yet,
should
but that's the sort of thing we're here to talk about.
be. Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome.
If you're listening to this either live or you're listening to this on the recording afterwards, we appreciate your being here. And it is time for another of the rare, but in the future maybe not as rare,
Not as rare.
Intermillennium Media Project live streams.
Yay! We're here on a slight delay, but we're here.
We were getting ready for another one of our Millennial Strikes Back episodes, where Ian takes over the podcast and talks about something that was important to him in his youth.
Exactly.
And we realized this is an unusual one, but if it's a movie, I watch it with him. If it's a game, I'll play through it. This is something we haven't dealt with before, a card game.
Yeah. This is the first of at least 3 I can think of that might show up. Trading card games. And this is the big one, in many ways. Because we are going to be playing Magic the Gathering. I've played Magic for a while now, but at the same time, there's this weird understanding I know as to why you might not have gotten to play as much. Magic was invented by Richard Garfield, mathematician and all-around game design wizard, for wizards, before they were wizards, I believe, in the late 80s. But it first came to market in 1992.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering was released in 1992.
Yes.
Something else that was released in 1992
Yeah.
was Ian.
I wonder what could have been filling my dad's time.
Yeah, that kind of reduced my amount of the amount of time I had available for learning new games, finding groups to play with. I had played lots of tabletop games prior to this. I have returned to that since then. Played tons of tabletop RPGs and was involved in freelance writing and amateur press associations around that. But the timing was such that I remember a lot of the talk and the chatter and the writing around Magic when it was released. I've maybe played it once or twice in my life, if that much.
And for me, Magic the Gathering was this semi-ubiquitous thing that was in the background, but until high school, I didn't get to encounter it much. But in high school, I was part of the gaming kind of scene and crowd, and I did get to learn Magic. I was taught Magic the Gathering properly in high school. Problem for me is the fact that the group I played with, we played Yu-Gi-Oh, not Magic. Those were a different set of kids.
Were these like factions that
Yes,
did you have to pick a side?
yes and no. A lot of the people I know who played Yu-Gi-Oh
Yeah.
went to Magic eventually.
Okay.
And weirdly enough, there's people I know who played Magic who've gone to Yu-Gi-Oh. Those two are kind of constantly trading people back and forth from what I know. But Magic is the bigger one with a larger player base in general and a more cultural impact, as well as, to be honest, a sturdier base as a game than Yu-Gi-Oh's other issues, which might be a completely separate podcast episode in the future. But Magic the Gathering is an interesting one for the podcast and for our discussions in general, because Magic is not just a game. Magic, in the same way I've discussed Lego being used to analyze media and such, Magic discusses and talks and interacts with media in its own way. And I want us to play because I want us to be able to talk about how Magic, as a medium of storytelling and a story in and of itself, works.
Interesting point you make about Lego, because I remember you did a bonus show on our Patreon about how Lego interacts with other media. And based on what you've taught me so far about Magic, in terms of the different decks that come out, the different sets, how they are, there are licensed properties and tie-in properties that all come back to this. It is sort of a platform for talking about media as well as a game.
And the discussion of what it means to be Magic the Gathering is a major one right now. So, what I've gotten us is the Magic the Gathering Arena Starter Kit. It is a 2-player deck set based around the online mobile app version, Magic the Gathering Arena. So you can play Magic the Gathering on your computer, your tablet, or whatever.
To turn that upside down.
Ah, perfect. No, there we go. So this is a 2-player starter deck for us to learn the game. And we'll be able to play and discuss what we're seeing as we go. Once that's done, I've got us some packs of a variety of different sets. And this lets you, Dad, try opening some packs and seeing what your luck is like. And I can also talk to you about the different stories every single one of these represents, and what it means when this is the medium of how you tell your narrative.
And the different packs they have, these are all from different sets or different releases.
Yes.
But are they all interchangeable such that you can take something from a Doctor Who pack and incorporate it into a deck that has nothing to do with Doctor Who otherwise?
Yes, but also no. It depends on what version of Magic the Gathering you're playing. Magic the Gathering actually contains a couple of different games inside of it. There's different formats, different rules for how you build and play your deck that result in different requirements. So Standard is a set where only the newest cards, the current stories, are allowed. And those are restricted into what you are and are not allowed, and certain outside products like the Doctor Who might not be allowed to ever come in. They're considered separate. Meanwhile, there's Modern and Legacy, where it's all about when in Magic the Gathering's history, from 92 to now, the cards exist. Because as the game has progressed, the company behind it, the people who work making the game, have learned more about how the game works. Which kind of sounds weird. They're making it, but they're learning it themselves as well. But they have changed how they go about stuff. And they have said, we made mistakes, or we've made cards that weren't mistakes, but they're just really strong. And so there's different eras people play with. There are requirements sometimes of things like Pauper, which is only playing with common cards. With cards that aren't the rare, big, powerful things, but they're the lower level, more strategic things. Or then there's my favorite format, Commander, where it uses everything throughout Magic's history, and its limit is more in terms of the fact that you have to only play one of each card in your deck. But you have very big decks, so it's full of potential and lower on the flavor of the individual stories. And in case people want to know how much I'm a fan of Commander, I did also bring my Commander decks, which I can show everyone at the end if I want.
So each of these is a different deck you've set up with different strategies behind them?
Exactly. So each one of these is a 100-card deck of different stories. So I've brought like 900 cards of different decks of mine.
And I find all of this really interesting because I've played Magic, like I say, very, very little, maybe twice in my life. But I'm interested in it as a game and as a phenomenon, so I've read more about it. So it seems like it's, the longer it abides, the more it becomes like playing cards. It's not just a platform for talking about media, like we were saying. It is a platform upon which other games are built.
Yes.
And I do know, thanks to Loading Ready Run, that within Magic the Gathering, there is something called Canadian Highlander.
Yes.
Anything that has something named Canadian Highlander, I want in. I want to know about that.
And hello to our to some of our people in chat. Talon, My friend Tony, I will say, yeah, I'm half expecting us to wind up with streamers and podcasters as a Universes Beyond set at some point.
Well, I don't know which game it is, but I do know that Japanime Games is doing something with a VTubers edition of one of their games. So streamers can't be far behind.
Just within the last month, Magic the Gathering put out exclusive promo cards featuring Hatsune Miku.
Cool.
You can, in fact, play Hatsune Miku as your card and your commander even in Magic the Gathering. The fact that this game has become, I would like to tap the Shire in order to play Hatsune Miku and give my Astartes warrior from Warhammer 40,000 an attack boost. That is a legitimate sentence in this game now, and it keeps getting weirder.
I like it.
I like it too.
And Sue, thank you for joining us in chat. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Yay.
Actually, I presume that's both of you, Sue and Jim.
So, shall we? Do you want to be the one to open the package?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
All right.
You get an unboxing stream in the middle of your gameplay stream, everybody.
Is this resealable, such that there's a particular way I should be opening it?
It comes with 2 internal deck boxes, so once you open it up, we're okay to store the cards.
Got it. Yes.
Huzzah.
Unboxing, pack opening. I do know that years ago, just opening packs of Magic cards was a genre of streaming and videos online.
Absolutely. Well, Magic cards and packs in general for trading cards are interesting because they have that randomness built in. It is a system of, rares and commons and everything else where the card packs have that kind of built-in gambling excitement to it, but in terms of narrative, there's this interesting thing of getting the different moments of your story all mixed up in that sense. It's like pulling out the pages of a book and shuffling them, and then handing people a handful.
Okay.
And seeing how much of the story they learn from a handful of the pages out of order.
Oh.
But the first thing that opening this box runs us into.
Okay. And this is specifically Commander style of play, correct?
This is going to be basic Magic the Gathering.
Oh, basic, not Commander.
This is going to be more akin to standard.
Okay, standard.
Here's the thing. The rules of how cards are played and such do not change.
It's just what decks you can build that
right.
changes.
It's about how you build the deck you come in with.
Okay.
So, for this, we've got an explanation of the different types of cards in Magic. But the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that these 2 decks are not the same due to their colors.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering is a game built on the colors of Magic. And I've got some examples.
Not the Terry Pratchett book.
No.
Though, if you tell me there's a Terry Pratchett series, I would totally believe you. Discworld Magic the Gathering cards?
Oh, that would so be popular. But there are 5 colors in Magic, and I'm trying to find a good card that has all 5. Here we go. This card...
Oh, so a card can have more than one color, too.
Correct. But this one on the top, I'm going to bring this up so that we can see, has all 5 colors of Magic.
All right.
White, blue, black, red, and green.
All right.
And it is the color pie, this 5-color system, that breaks down all of Magic, both for game and for some narrative aspect. There is no such thing as an evil color.
Now, are these, if I was analogizing to playing cards, would these kind of be like the suits?
That's kind of good.
Not
Suits,
exactly, but close?
Not quite. They're close. These are kind of the suits of Magic. But the different colors have different things they're good at, different specialties. White is great at law and order and structure.
Okay.
Blue is going to be thoughtful and creative. Black is going to have a very much, something must die for something else to live. There's this,
Okay.
natural order aspect.
Uh-huh.
Red is going to be fiery, energetic passion. It's going to be emotions.
Okay.
And green is going to be the strength of nature and numbers and size, and it's going to be the forces of nature
Okay.
in that sense. The 5 of them, each representing a part, they can do a variety of things, but they're each better at certain parts. And so innately, story has conflict because if you look at the back of a Magic card, you get the 5 pips in a little order.
Right.
And that means white is closely aligned with its 2 neighbors
Huh.
and has kind of competitive nature or rivalries with the other 2. So white likes being intelligent, likes the strength in numbers of blue and green. But the things have to die and the energetic passions that go against its orderly nature of black and red create inherent conflict. So this 5-part system means no one is the bad guy or the negative, but they are all antagonists and protagonists to each other.
And that keeps a kind of balance going.
Bingo.
It's starting to remind me of 2 things. One is, of course, the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
The other is this obscure 1980s New Agey Oracle deck system called Stargate.
Okay, yeah.
I'll have to show you that sometime. It's
I
not
would
a game
love
to play per se, but it reminds me something of that.
I would love to see it. But Magic's color pie
Yeah.
affects everything from the gameplay to the story.
Okay.
In gameplay terms, you can kind of understand how something that likes the lumbering strength of nature in green will have really big, powerful creatures,
Right.
but might not be able to be as fast as something like a blue thought, which will let you pull new things, or the red hitting you quick.
Yeah.
They're mechanically as well as narratively important.
Okay.
So here we've got to start out of a blue-red deck
Yeah.
and a green-black deck,
Blue, red, and green, black.
which are rival colors, but they can work together.
Okay.
Every combination from single color to all 5 at once can be used together.
Uh-huh.
But you're trading things off doing that. So, to start a tabletop game, we'll have to pick which one you want to play.
Oh, just pick one?
Pick one. We've got, this one is showing our top card as Cyclone Summoner, a giant wizard.
And this one is green, black.
Green-black with
And this
Dragon's
one
Guard
is
Elite. Blue-red.
blue, red.
So, do you want thoughtful but impulsive, or do you want life and death and natural order?
I'm going to go with the green, black.
Sounds good. Okay. Magic. So let's open our decks.
Okay. And there's this separate card that's not in the plastic pack. The Dragon's Guard Elite.
Yes, they put one on top. That should be part of your deck, but it's that's one of the foil cards that this one came with.
Oh, I see.
So completely separate from the gameplay element, there is the fun of the fact that cards can have fun foily effects and alternate artwork and such.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the collection aspect.
Exactly.
In a collectible card game.
And so you should have a little code card we can put off to the side on the back. So before you shuffle, make sure to grab those 2 cards off the back.
So I grab these.
Oh, yeah, it looks like you just have the one.
That one?
So this is a reference card
Okay.
that will explain some of the mechanics to you.
All right. Very good.
And I'm going to just go through and pull a couple cards out of my deck here to show you as examples to start.
Yeah, and we'll narrate these because the camera isn't super sharp at that distance, but we wanted you to be able to see the field of play here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got Island, we've got Archmage Emeritus.
Yes. And we've got Run Amok, are 3 cards I've picked here.
All right.
These are examples of a couple of different types of cards of Magic. Because Magic has a variety of different card types, and seeing the differences of what you might see on a piece of cardboard here is useful.
Okay.
Magic is powered entirely by land.
Oh, okay. That's where the magical force supposedly comes from?
In the story of Magic the Gathering, we get to be planeswalkers.
Cool.
Magical, powerful sorcerers who are imbued with a spark that lets us travel the multiverse. And we are pulling power from the places we've been.
Okay.
So the land itself is full of mana, full of magic.
Okay.
So our lands are what we'll use to play cards. These are used to generate points and power that we'll use later. We've got this here, Run Amok, is an instant, which is a type of card that is a singular event, a singular action, a moment in time in that sense. This one makes things stronger and lets them hit harder. So it's powering up what we're doing. And Archmage Emeritus here is a creature.
All right.
Both of these cards have costs up in the top. So at the top of the card, they have numbers that tell you how many lands, mana, you've got to use to play them.
Okay, you need the energy to be able to play the card.
So everything, mana is generated from lands, and then cards have a mana cost.
Got it.
And that you pay that cost to play them.
Uh-huh.
So you're kind of building your energy supply and then using it to play out cards every turn.
All right.
Cards have their type here in a line, name, picture, type, and then their effect underneath in the box. Creatures can have the same thing. They can have effects that they do, special things that make them unique. And then down here at the bottom, they have two numbers. Their power, which is how hard they hit, and their toughness, which is how much they can take being hit.
Okay, so damage and hit points.
Damage and hit points.
Got it.
And when you're playing cards, these two numbers, not only the fact that they exist shows you it's a creature, it says that in the type line as well, but these numbers are going to be how you interact with fighting creatures together and how they interact with each other.
Okay.
So, Magic is also important about positioning.
Uh-huh.
When you play a card, you play it upright according to yourself. When you use a card, you will tap it, turning a card sideways.
All right.
So
you put it in play, and then you tap it to activate it, to do whatever it does.
Right. Some cards will actually, like this one, if I can pull that up to show, have symbols telling you to tap it to do extra stuff. Creatures might also tap to attack. And so where and how you put cards down does have importance in Magic in that sense.
All right.
But the main thing will be the fact that you will be playing cards out, paying mana, and causing effects.
Okay.
So, yeah. So when you play something, you're casting it. This is a very thin book they give us. But let's shuffle our decks to start.
Okay,
Card,
including that one
foil
was
card,
hanging out
yeah.
there, the foil card.
Yes. Tony is in the chat talking about the fact that foil cards are known to curl over time because of the foil effect sometimes. So he's saying that we can enjoy our Pringled card over time.
Pringle cards. I like it.
Yep, that's a mechanical issue of being a physical object that can happen. So.
Well, this is the real reason the internet was invented, starting with ARPA way back when, is so people can watch people shuffle cards from long distances away. And I am not being ironic about that. That there is something very cool about this.
Oh, yeah. This is really awesome. So, in Magic the Gathering, one plays with a hand of 7 cards to start.
7 cards.
7 cards. And so I'm just kind of grabbing cards to start.
So we just deal ourselves the first 7?
Deal yourselves the first 7. And I want to kind of... I'm trying to figure out how to start here. Do you want me to go ahead and play out cards and show you kind of how a turn goes, and you'll follow through and I'll help you along?
Sure.
Or, yeah.
Sounds like a good way to do it.
Sounds good. So you can play 1 land per turn in Magic the Gathering, unless otherwise stated. So your lands being your power, You will build slowly.
All right.
And these starter decks have cards from across a variety of different sets in Magic the Gathering. So I'll be able to explain to you, once we're getting into the idea of the different sets and different stories,
Okay.
some of these other cards as well.
So I'm picking a land and playing that.
Right. Right now, I have nothing I can play because I'm looking at the cards in my hand, which I'll lay out and show you.
All right.
I've got a couple of lands here, so I've got plenty that I'll be able to play in later turns. But none of my stuff has a cost low enough for me to play this early.
Oh, I see.
So right now, my island can generate 1 blue mana.
Got it.
In the top here, you'll see symbols for the different colors of mana. You'll also see numbers. The symbol has to be paid with one of that color. The number, you can pay that many of any color. So for example, this bird wizard here, Frost Trickster, costs 3 mana. But he can be played with 1 blue and 2 of anything.
Okay.
And so that will be how things go from there. But when you're first starting out, most of the time you just get to play a land and go from there.
Okay.
So
I've
got a swamp.
a basic land called a swamp.
Yep, and that
And the M21, that's the number of...
that's the set.
That's the set. Okay.
So
Nothing to do
that's the core set of Magic
Right.
from the 21st core set.
And how much mana does a land generate?
A single point.
Single point. Got it.
So unless it's otherwise stated, a land will generate 1 point of mana. But when you tap it in a turn, at the start of your next turn, you go through untap, which means everything you have tapped, everything you spent last time, comes back.
Oh, it's not... It has 1 point and then it goes away.
Right.
Got it.
It can only generate 1 point in a
Per
turn.
turn.
Because you can only tap it once.
Got it.
But it'll untap your next turn. So you'll be building up more, and those will replenish themselves at the end.
Okay.
So I untap everything, didn't have anything tapped. I upkeep, so if anything had effects that it needed to keep doing, gives it a chance. And then I get to draw a card.
And I played 1 card. I don't draw a card until my next turn, is that correct?
Correct.
Got it.
At the start of your turn, you go through these phases of untap, upkeep, and draw.
Okay.
And it fills up your hand.
Got it.
So I will play myself a mountain. That will generate me red mana when I tap it.
All right.
But I still have nothing that can play with that, so it is your turn. And I will and we are playing the most casual teaching game, so show me anything, I will answer any questions.
Cool. Let me just sort these out a little bit. My creatures from lands.
Your creature, your creatures from your lands, from your sorceries, from your enchantments, from your instants. There's a variety of different types that all do slightly different things, but all use the same tap your lands, play your cards mechanics.
All right. So I would untap. Didn't have anything tapped anyway.
Correct.
Do upkeep. Don't have anything to upkeep. Take 1 card. And now the only lands I have are 2 in my hand are 2 copies of something peculiar called Evolving Wilds.
Yes. Okay.
Sacrifice Evolving Wilds. Search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle.
Right. So that is a land
Yeah.
that doesn't generate mana on its own.
Right.
But what it lets you do is destroy itself,
Okay.
and it lets you find a land and put it onto the battlefield already tapped.
Okay.
So that way, these decks have 2 different colors. Because different cards require different colors, cards like this allow you to find and fix your mana.
Oh.
So let's say you've got a bunch
black
of...
and I need green.
Exactly.
Let's dig in there and find a green.
These cards let you find green
Got it.
in your deck and search for it. So that's where Evolving Wilds is useful. And we've gone over instants, but we haven't gotten to go over sorceries or enchantments yet.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I figured we'll talk about those when they come up.
Yeah, instants and sorceries are both cards that do things to the field. Sorceries you can play on your turn. Instants you can play anytime.
Oh,
So an instant lets you throw a bolt of lightning at your opponent in the middle of their turn, while a sorcery might let you make your creatures more powerful before you come charging at them with your attack.
Gotcha.
Enchantments are like creatures, but they don't have stats. They just sit around and do a thing. They are
All right.
they're static effects. They're the idea of having a wall of protection. It's not one of your fighters, but it's not going away at the end of this.
Okay. So, if I don't have a land to play and I can't play anything else because I don't have enough mana to play it, I can play one of these Evolving Wilds.
Yep. And that is
discard that.
Yep, that's a land for your turn. So you play it, you tap it, you sacrifice it.
Oh, I see. So it is.
It is a land.
This is a land, but it's a primordial land that hasn't decided what it is yet.
Exactly.
So we go and find out what it is.
The standard 5 colors each have a basic land. The 5 colors, we've got plains, islands, swamps, mountains, and forests.
Okay.
Those are the 5 pieces of, like the 5 natural environments that fuel the magic. All sorts of other fantastical places can sometimes be combinations of the different colors or have their own unique effects. But those 5 basic lands are that core.
Okay.
So Evolving Wilds is a non-basic land that lets you hunt down one of the basic lands, and it mechanically, with the card effect, as you were describing, plays out that narrative element of being this amorphous place that solidifies into something else.
So I've played that, and then after that I tap whatever I'm going to tap, is that right?
Yeah.
So then I would tap that, and tapping it makes it go away because it sacrifices
Right.
itself.
You're tapping it and using its effect, and its effect is get rid of itself and search up a card.
Then I can search through my deck
to find
a land that I like.
Yep. And it'll say basic land at the start. So like
Right.
basic land, and then it'll say its type.
Well, I'm going to balance these then by turning a forest, and it deploys tapped, right?
Correct.
And
So
then I reshuffle.
then you reshuffle. And since it deploys tapped, you can't use it this turn.
Oh.
So it's costing that kind of momentum, but it's giving you
Oh,
that
it's
variety.
tapped as in already used for this turn as opposed to ready to go.
Exactly.
Got it. Because my tapping would happen after this play, I guess.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there have been a lot of weird cards, but yes, absolutely. There's artifacts and planeswalkers and a lot of fun types over the 30 plus years. Okay. So, untap, upkeep, and draw a card.
Okay.
And I will play another island.
Oh.
And with that many in play, I can actually play a creature.
So you're tapping 1 red and 2 blue.
To play Frost Trickster, which costs 1
Cool.
blue and 2 of anything.
Okay.
He is a bird wizard. I'm going to ignore everything else that he says because you don't have any creatures yourself to interact with it yet, but I get to talk about creatures here.
Cool.
Creatures are the people, animals, and living things of the world. They have their power and their toughness. Toughness is always how much damage they can take. If they ever take enough damage that they're at 0 toughness, they die. They go to the graveyard. And the types of creatures they are can be important. There are things that care about being a wizard, care about being a bird.
Okay.
So that line isn't just for flavor.
Something else it'll have this effect on any birds or any wizards.
It's like, and sometimes it'll be things like, oh yeah, me, it's friendly wizard. All the other wizards gain a toughness.
Cool.
So they become harder to kill because friendly wizard doesn't want his wizard buddies dying.
Okay.
Here's the other thing. I have a creature. You've got none. That looks dangerous. Don't worry. In the story of Magic the Gathering, just like you're pulling power from the lands you visited, you are pulling the power and the help of the people and things you have met and experienced.
Got it.
Being pulled magically through the aether to show up on a battlefield to fight for a guy you knew is not a pleasant experience. Cards experience something known as summoning sickness. The first turn you play them, they can't tap.
Okay.
Unless otherwise stated, they are very confused showing up here. So
he just landed and he's still dizzy, but he's going to be around for a while.
yeah, that could be anything from, where was I? I was having breakfast, to, pardon me, I'm a fighter here ready to go. I knew this was coming, but I have to do my superhero landing before I'm ready to start punching. But it's an interesting moment where, especially if we're talking about story, there's a bit of a narrative reason added on after the fact to a mechanical limit that prevents things from being unbalanced.
I like that. The arrival is a story beat, and then its first real action is another story beat.
Exactly. Cool. So my creature has arrived, but it can't attack yet.
Okay.
And now it is your turn.
Now it's my turn. So I untap.
Correct.
I upkeep, but I have nothing to upkeep.
Yep.
And then I draw a card.
Yep. Draw a card.
Draw a card. And let's see. Mm-hmm. Well, I still don't have any creatures that I can play.
Okay.
Or any basic lands that I can play.
Ah.
So I'm going to play another Evolving Wilds.
Ah, do more exploring.
Right. And then I can tap that.
Yep.
And it goes away.
Yep.
And I get to hunt for another land.
Exactly. And I'm not sure what you've got in your hand, but your hand will have shown you kind of, I'm getting a lot more red card. Like, for me, I've gotten a red card that's high expensive. Maybe I want to try to get more red and such. Your hand is kind of giving you options in terms of what you're getting, and that the fact that you've got an entire randomized deck, just like a game with normal playing cards, that is impactful. But it's interesting where my probability chances don't affect yours because we're playing two different decks against each other.
I see. It's not a zero-sum game. You having something doesn't mean I don't have it.
Right.
So I have picked another green card, another forest basic land, but that shows up tapped already. And that's the end of my turn?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I will untap, I will upkeep and draw. And this is a fine time to...
Oh.
What?
I made a bad call there, I think, in terms of pulling that, because I had things that need green to play, but they are not creatures.
Ah.
But maybe that's okay.
That might be okay.
It might be okay, because you've got things ready to do things.
And I'm going to show an example of a card.
All right.
This is a sorcery.
Yep.
This is Thundering Rebuke.
I love the names.
The names are so fun.
Thundering Rebuke.
The names are where a lot of story comes in, but this is a great example for two reasons. One, it's a sorcery. I've paid 1 and a red. Sorcery means it's going to do a thing and go away. Its effect is deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker.
Okay.
I'm doing this to show the point. The only creature's mine.
Right.
I'm going to hit my own creature with this.
Is there a reason, or just for illustration?
Illustration purposes.
Okay.
4 damage is greater than my 2.
Yeah.
That brings him at 0 or under. That would kill him.
Oh, he goes to the discard.
He goes to the discard. The other reason I wanted to play this one is to be able to show, in context, flavor text.
Yes.
Underneath the effect text, which we just followed, is this italicized secondary text.
Mm-hmm.
That is flavor text. Fire is too imprecise for my tastes. I'd rather rely on a single, well-placed bolt of lightning. Attributed to Lyris, Seagate Wizard. In-world quotes, or descriptions of what's going on, are part of how Magic the Gathering tells its story.
Okay.
Every single card being a single snippet of time, a single person or character. If it has a lot of effect, they'll skip the flavor. But plenty of them will have flavor text there, which give you the story in that tiny little moment of context. So suddenly this thundering rebuke with this description of a single bolt of lightning is this it is the way they mix having flavorful effects and mechanical effects all together.
That's what we in RPG writing 35 years ago we called that Chrome in Chrome versus mechanics. I'm sure it's had many other terms since then.
Absolutely,
but I get it.
But I was happy to sacrifice a bird wizard for the sake of story here. So,
well, some of these are definitely going to go into my future email sign-offs.
Oh yes,
yours in Thundering Rebuke.
Absolutely. Well, that was my turn. I don't have enough to play anything else.
All right.
So, it's off to you.
Okay, so.
And I'm hoping, right now you have experienced something known as being mana screwed.
Right.
Or having a mana drought, as it's known sometimes.
Got it.
Where you're not getting the mana you need to play stuff. That's a thing in Magic the Gathering.
Sure.
You can be flooded with extra mana and not have cards to play. You cannot get enough.
It's literally luck of the draw.
Literally luck of the draw. So.
All right, so I untapped that forest that I brought out previously. Nothing to upkeep. I draw a card. And
one moment.
Sure.
My fiance is being adorable in chat, pointing out the fact that she got to organize the entirety of our Magic collection. So, yay!
All right.
Hi, honey.
I am going to play another land. For lack of anything else to do,
Hey!
I am going to play the another forest.
Absolutely. Very nice.
All right.
Okay. And let's untap. And I'm kind of excited to see as you build up. You've got some powerful cards, I'm assuming, with a number of stuff in your hand. So, I will play another mountain and not be able to play any more cards because I'm getting a lot of mana and not a lot of cards.
All right.
So, yeah, this is going a little slower, but still, the idea of exploring and the fact that the art in Magic the Gathering can show the same idea different ways. So here's
both mountains.
Two mountains, but we've got different art, even from the same set here. Magic 21, which was a core set, a basic start-out kind of set. They've got different artworks. And so the artwork in Magic, it takes up a large spot in the card because it's so important to kind of giving you that tone and that sense of the worlds you're walking into.
Well, any game, whether it's a card game, Go, chess, tabletop RPG, the aesthetics are so important to me. It's not just what do I need for the bare bones mechanics. Sometimes a simple aesthetic can be good, but the fact that an aesthetic has been chosen and made consistent, that is so important for any game design. So I really like this.
Absolutely. So I'll pass the turn to you.
All right. I have nothing to untap.
Yeah.
I have nothing to upkeep. So I can draw a card.
Draw a card.
And I'm going to play another land.
Oh.
Another swamp.
You're really getting a... If you want to...
I'm a real estate developer.
Yeah. For the sake of being able to move forward, if you want to shuffle up and shuffle your hand in and draw fresh just to try, or...
I'll let you know. Is there a game rule that kind of allows you to do that if you're desperate?
There is a thing where if you do not have a hand you like at the start, a lot of Magic the Gathering tournaments and such allow mulligans of some form.
Okay.
Allow you to shuffle your hand back in and play, and draw a fresh hand. Sometimes there's penalties about the number of cards you draw, or your opponent gets to draw an extra card.
Okay.
But you get to make sure you start out on a good foot.
That makes sense.
But the luck of the draw is a part of the story in that sense.
Sure.
Okay. I will draw and I will play an island. And I will tap 5 mana total to play a Mind Flayer. This is from the Dungeons & Dragons set that they came out with. So this is same sort of creature as the Mind Flayers of D&D.
Sure.
And it has Dominate Monster, which is a fun instance of them using flavor for naming the effect of what a card will do.
Uh-huh.
by putting that italicized flavor text early.
Okay.
It has the ability that when it came into play, I could gain control of another creature for as long as I control Mind Flayer. It doesn't have anyone he can control right now, but I've got a 3/3 creature here, a creature horror.
So that's identified as horror. So that's a type of creature.
That's a type of creature.
Got it.
The idea of being a horror is a thing in Magic.
I like it.
And there's a wide variety of creature types. One in their booklet here, they show an example card that is a dinosaur cat nightmare.
A dinosaur cat nightmare.
That is a legitimate creature type line in Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
This is the sort of interesting thing. If they need, for some reason, to give a new type of card, a new type of creature or something,
Yeah.
they can make it, and they will keep growing. When they brought out a Doctor Who set, the idea of the Doctor being a card meant that the creature type became Time Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And now that is a creature type in Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Because of the types of creatures are important for mechanic, but what types are in different stories is based on the story type.
So it's still a creature for the basic creature rules, but it's got this additional category for which other rules or other interactions with specific cards can come into effect.
Right. And that means that what stories they tell together can result in interesting things. Do they want to tell us a story about wizards and lightning bolts in a standard fantasy setting?
Uh-huh.
That means we'll get a lot of knights and wizard cards. And then the next set they come out with might be their Wild West set, and you've got a bunch of outlaws and rogues. And suddenly the wizard cards don't affect the rogues the same way.
And this is how you get Billy the Kid versus Dracula's daughter,
Yeah.
which is a real movie.
I love that.
love it.
In the same way, yeah, those movies in that time of that type will have those crossovers, will have those interactions with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Magic the Gathering has that in the fact that its stories butt up against each other in mechanical nature.
It's kind of a random crossover fanfic generator.
Yes. For example, they've announced the next two sets they're coming out with.
Yeah.
They've got Bloomborough, which is kind of Magic the Gathering does Redwall.
Oh, I like it.
The set following that is Duskmoor, which looks to be Magic the Gathering does Stranger Things. And this means you're going to get people running around with Ghostbusters-style energy packs alongside mice with swords in standard Magic the Gathering play for about 2 years coming up. And that's the sort of fun, all of the movie theater's different showings are bleeding into each other thing that Magic the Gathering can do.
I
New
like it.
movie comes out, you wouldn't expect the new movie coming out to impact what going to see the movie from last week is like. But Magic has that happen.
All right.
Tony, my friend Taylor in there is a fan of ninja decks, it sounds.
So, are you still playing, or is it now my turn?
It is now your turn.
Okay, so
He has summoning sickness for showing up, and I'm tapped out.
nothing I need to untap.
Yes.
Nothing I need to upkeep. I draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
And so a circle with a number
Yes.
means that number of anything.
Correct.
And a pip with a specific symbol, like black, 2 of those means 2 black.
Right.
So it's that number of anything plus 2 black.
Right. For example here, Mind Flayer shows 3 blue blue. So
Got
that's
it.
I have to pay 5 total, and 2 of those have to be blue.
Got it. So, all right, I think I'm doing this right then. I'm going to tap all of these
Excellent.
and play a Cleaving Reaper.
Yes.
So I've got the 3 of anything plus 2 black.
Yep. And so that is a
A creature, Angel Berserker,
nice.
flying and trample. If you play 3 life, return Cleaving Reaper from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, it can come back to life. Cool.
Yes. And that's the thing. We haven't set life right now. Basic Magic the Gathering, we each start with 20 life.
Okay.
The goal in Magic is to knock the opponent down to 0. There's other ways to win, but defeating them by eliminating their life points is the standard method.
Okay.
Your creature has flying. That means that is a narrative thing, the idea of this thing flying above the battlefield, but it's an effect there. It's a static effect, which has its own mechanics, marked by just a single word as a keyword.
Okay.
Flying means that it can't be blocked unless the other thing is flying as well, or says it has things like reach, which means it can reach up and grab you. So it mechanically has this advantage of being airborne.
Huh.
And it has trample. That means that it doesn't just hit, it hits hard. It hits through things.
So it can fly, but when it lands, watch out.
We'll be possibly experiencing what combat looks like in just a bit. And I'll be
Okay.
able to explain to you what trample does when you understand how combat compares the numbers and stats of different cards. And the fact that yours comes back from the dead is terrifying.
Okay.
So,
I guess that's the end of my turn.
that's the end of your turn. Okay. Because that summoning sickness keeps you from swinging. I will untap, upkeep, and draw. I'll play another island just to keep things going. And I will only pay 2 mana for a Teeter Peak Ambusher, a Goblin Warrior. He's a 1/3. A lot of creatures will just be described as their power and toughness there for
Okay.
that simple. So first number, second number. A 1/3. I can pay extra mana, so I can pay 2 and a red to give him +2/+0.
Okay.
So it doesn't tap him. You can keep paying that and just keep powering him up. And it's till end of turn. So when I end my turn, he goes back down to nothing.
Got it.
But I want to, since we've got creatures on the board, I've got everything, my Mind Flayer is no longer sick, I will attack you.
All right. So are you attacking me, or are you attacking a particular creature?
I attack you.
Got it.
When in Magic the Gathering, you do not select your targets for attack. Your opponent gets to decide if they want to block them.
Oh, okay. And that's where the toughness comes in.
Right.
Got it.
So when cards fight each other, they each deal their power to the other player, to the other creature. So, and then you compare how much toughness that is what remains. This allows creatures to bash into each other, and some of them might destroy the other. They might destroy each other. They might hit each other, and neither one dies.
Okay.
But this is an example to show how that is. So I've got a Mind Flayer attacking you.
Okay.
You have the option to let it hit you, or you can tap your creature to block my monster.
If I let it hit me, I automatically take that much damage against my 20 life.
Exactly.
If I block by the number of toughness of what I block with.
Not quite. You block entirely.
Oh.
If you had a creature with 1 toughness and it stood in front of something with 20 attack, nothing of it gets through to you.
Okay.
Except trample.
Oh, that
Trample
can move
means
through.
it runs through and hits
Got
the
it.
opponent. So
Okay.
in this example, I have a creature with 3/3. You have a creature with 5/3.
Right.
If they were to fight each other, my creature would die,
Got
and
it.
I'd take 2 damage because you have trample.
Oh, so the trample isn't only an issue upon my attack.
It's
It
anytime
includes in any time it's in combat.
correct.
Okay.
And mine would deal 3 damage to you, and they'd both die.
Got
I'd
it.
take 2 damage. But here's an interesting example, though. I want to also show. Let's presume I had him already. If
Yep.
I attacked with both of them, you'd have to pick who you're blocking.
Oh, I'm blocking one particular card's worth of the attack, not the total attack.
Right.
Could I, if I
So-
had more creatures out here, do multiple blocks to meet your multiple attacks?
Correct. In a way that's very similar to tactical war games in that sense. You can wind up in a game of Magic having armies of creatures. Some of them holding back to defend, some of
Okay.
them swinging forward to attack, switching around, and all of them interacting with each other in different ways.
Got it. So blocking with my Cleaving Reaper would do damage to you, but it would destroy the Reaper.
Correct.
Not blocking would mean I take 3 damage against my total of 20.
And you would have your flying creature available
Right.
to attack.
Yes, so I think I would not sacrifice that by blocking. I would just take the 3 damage.
You take 3 damage. That makes sense. But being able to use that as an example, once we both had creatures, I wanted to show you kind of the mechanics of combat. They're relatively simple. It's just comparing 2 sets of numbers.
Sure.
But you can see here with effects like this that make cards bigger by adding power to it, making it hit harder.
Right.
Or static effects like your flying or your trample. Those can impact that simple interaction in numerous ways.
Right.
And the fact that this is a game built on a structure by a mathematician
Yes.
comes through where there's this progression of curve in terms of your supply of resources. There is a ratio and a relation to how much things cost based on how strong they are. And the balancing that Magic the Gathering designers have to do is balancing the cost to the power of the effects and the numbers.
Right.
Big numbers, but not a lot of effects, can sometimes be as great as low numbers, but powerful big effects.
Okay.
Haha.
Okay, so that means I now have 17 life, not 20.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And
Do we typically use a d20 or something to track that?
absolutely.
Cool.
I actually have a spin down D20 right here to use.
Ooh, nice.
This is a fancy one from a Kickstarter.
Cool.
But if you want to track your life using that,
All right.
and yes, it's a 20-sided die, is kind of nice in terms of that
Yeah.
utility. I will use a different way of tracking. If I can pluck it out of my container here. Actually, I'll use this one. I've got a little wheel counter here.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of accessories can also be a part of Magic the Gathering for players. Deck boxes, dice, counters and stuff can be very useful as well. So,
And I just realized I set up the images here to be confusing because I'm on one side of the screen, but my hand is actually on this side.
oh
I
goodness.
should have flipped those. Actually, hang on a moment.
Ah, can we?
I might be able to do that.
Huzzah. Pardon me, I've got chat down here, so I'm checking what you guys are talking about. Ah, converted mana cost. Yes, the name for what the total value of a card's type is.
Chat, close your eyes if you get motion sick. All right. So now I'm on the same side as my image.
Huzzah. Okay.
Okay.
So, it's your turn.
It is my turn. Okay. I'm going to spread out a little bit to make better use of our screen here.
Excellent.
So it's my turn, which means I untap,
Yes.
upkeep, but I have nothing to upkeep. And then I draw. And now, how much do I need to tap in order to use a creature? Is it the same as to play them? Or what is that?
To use a creature, you just can.
Oh, just tap the creature. It doesn't take mana to use them.
If it requires
unless it's
mana to use it, it will say in its effect.
in the effect. Okay.
So for
got
you, this one has a different cost. Instead of costing you mana, this one makes you pay life to
I
bring it
see.
back to your hand. Life, mana, creatures, hand.
Gotcha.
There's numerous different resources that different cards can pull upon, and even your graveyard. In this case, it's interacting from your dead cards, your graveyard of cards.
Got it. Okay. So, and I can play cards as long as they have in a turn, as long as they have the mana.
You
to
can,
play
yeah.
them.
So
Okay.
if you've got a pile of things that cost 1 mana, you could play all of them
Okay.
as long as you've got mana to. So the more you're going, the bigger cards, but also the more cards, and those two things are balanced to each other.
All right. So then I'm going to tap 2 forest lands to to play a Dauntless Survivor.
Oh, very nice.
Another creature, a human warrior.
Human warrior.
He is not daunted.
And what does he say?
When Dauntless Survivor enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature.
So, a +1/+1 counter is a way to mark. A counter is something that stays on a creature to mark something happening. +1/+1s are common. -1/-1 counters.
Okay.
But different counters are part of how Magic tracks and changes the state of things.
Got it.
A lot of people will use dice. Some people, I print up little 3D printed sleds to mark
cool.
my stuff, things like that. I sell these on Etsy. But if you want to use his effect when he comes in, when he enters the battlefield, which is where we are, he gets to put one on target creature. So you can put it on anything.
So even though he comes in tapped because of the summoning sickness, this is still him entering the battlefield, so this is the point at which I do that?
Yep, him entering the battlefield is that.
Right.
So he can't attack, but he can do the thing.
So what does that having the +1/+1 counter mean?
+1/+1 is adding a power and a toughness to the card's stats.
Okay.
So if you were to put it on your angel, it would be a 6/4. It would
Got it.
survive more damage and it would hit harder.
Okay.
So hey,
Sounds good.
yeah.
So my
And-
my Cleaving Reaper is boosted.
Yeah, and he can't tap, but he comes in play, but he just can't attack to start.
Gotcha.
Or tap to use an effect.
I see.
But if he's got something like that, he still comes in and he's still going to be there for defending you later.
Okay, good. All right. So there's that. Anything else I want to do?
That's the question. You've still got 3 mana
I
open
do.
to spend. So if you've got cards that do something, those are options.
Yeah, I'm also going to tap the rest of these
Excellent.
and play a Vampire Spawn,
Aha!
which needs 1 black and 2 anything.
Very nice.
When Vampire Spawn enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
So mechanically, gaining and losing life like that has that vampiric siphoning away health aspect.
So this means I go to 19.
Yep, and I go down to 18.
All right.
Very nice. You swung the entire game by 4 points of health there.
Cool.
And that's where 20 seems big, but it's not too big when you're dealing with cards that are 5s and 6s and such are big, are numbers that are not impossible. Getting really large numbers is very possible in Magic, where the scale of the battlefield can overpower the scale of health in that sense
Gotcha.
quite easily.
And this is why I've seen people playing online. I've seen people playing Standard, and they have like 35 health. It's because of things like that. You can go above the 20.
You can go above the 20. You can.
Got it.
You can. I've got an entire deck that's purely based on gaining as much health as possible to cause effects to happen.
Got it.
So,
More coffee?
I'd love a bit more coffee.
Speaking of increasing life.
Exactly. More podcast fuel, please.
Yeah, the IMMP is still not sponsored by any coffee roaster,
We would.
but we are open-minded, so
Yes,
hit us
please.
up.
Now,
And if you like Ian's coffee mug, go to our website. It can be yours.
exactly. Now, interestingly enough, on your example card here,
Yeah.
it talks about the fact that when you start your game, you do all those untap steps. Then you enter what's known as the main phase. You can play cards in your main phase, creatures and such.
Okay.
When you enter combat, you can fight anything else. When you're done with combat, you go into a second main phase.
Oh,
So you can decide to play cards and fight and then play other cards.
Oh.
Or swing with everything you've got, attack all out, and then play out new stuff afterwards.
okay.
So that lets you play things in different orders. And sometimes that can be very important, where you can, in a flow of battle, which is what Magic simulates pretty well, there can be that mustering of forces, that attack, and then that recovery and retreat aspect where you'll heal creatures, you'll prepare for the next wave of what's coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
As Crafter Kitty, fiance Jen there. Hello.
Oh, so I could have been watching a different style of play that has different numbers to start with.
Right. Commander games start with 40 life instead of
That's
20.
possible. The one I'm thinking of, again, it was probably a loading ready run. It was like a 4-person game.
That is
That
Commander.
would have been Commander?
That's Commander. So that's starting with 40 life. Just like you've changed the number of cards, different play styles will change the number of starting life points in order to balance out and change the way the game runs.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Crafter Kitty, and thank you to everybody who's got tips and information in chat. I'm definitely going to go through that later because, yeah, this is all valuable. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think that's all of my turn.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's not.
Do you want to attack?
I can attack. That's right. I
Yep.
can attack.
These two entered.
These guys can't.
But you do
But
have
that guy
a
can.
flying 6/4.
Forgot that I've got the. Sure, I'll attack with a flying 6/4.
And neither of my creatures have flying.
Ah.
So narratively, tap your creature to attack. Because that's an
Okay.
effect it has to do. It has to tap to attack.
And because of the +1, it's a 6/4 card.
And you can imagine that flying over my battlefield and hitting me directly
All right.
in that wonderful dramatic moment, knocking me down to 12 life already.
Okay.
That's a powerful thing. Okay. I'm going to untap. I'm going to upkeep and draw.
Now, what is upkeep?
Upkeep is certain cards will describe upkeep.
Okay, it's a card by card
Yeah, I'm going
requirement.
to quickly check to make sure if we have anything.
Okay.
A lot of this starter deck has things that are talking about entering the battlefield and doing that.
Got it.
I don't think they're going to have a lot of upkeep effects in this deck now. But it's an important step to think of because if I reach down and grab one of my commander decks, cards that affect the upkeep can be quite powerful and common in certain types of play, where cards that, let me scroll to one here, cards that do things at the beginning of your upkeep, Honden of Rage, or Honden of Infinite Rage. Honden of Infinite Rage deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of shrines you control. And it itself is a shrine.
So this is another way in which the descriptive line matters.
Exactly. So this is an entire deck about building up shrines that on your upkeep or at different phases of the turns, like a clock ringing bells at certain times, this one causes effects to go off. So,
Okay.
so that's kind of an awareness thing, but it's probably not going to play too much into our game right now because upkeep is a mechanical element that we might not run into yet. But that's another thing. Even this game is swinging and dramatic and such, and there's entire parts of how the game works we might not touch based on what we're seeing here.
Gotcha.
Different sets of cards get to focus on different pieces of Magic interaction.
And that in turn can be oriented toward different strategies of how to play the game, right?
Yes. Yes. Good point. Flying can be countered by reach, but nothing of our things have that.
Okay, so you can block a flying attack if you've got reach.
If you've got reach or flying.
Or flying.
Something that
Oh,
can
aerial
can
combat.
fight in the air. Yeah.
I like it.
So, my turn. You've got two little guys here who can defend. But let's...
And this guy can't defend because he attacked last time?
Correct.
But they can because their summoning sickness only lasts through my turn.
Right. So that's ended. But I'm going to tap 5 and play Wormhole Serpent.
Okay.
A creature serpent, a 3/5, which is 3 and a blue as in its effect. Target creature can't be blocked this turn.
Okay.
So this is a creature that lets me slip things past you.
Okay, you'll have a little portal to get around my defenses.
Exactly. But that spent most of my mana.
Uh-huh.
So I've got to decide how I'm gonna deal with this. And I'm going to attack with my Teeter Peak Ambusher.
Okay.
I can attack with both if I wanted. Actually, I will. I'll attack with both Mind Flayer and Teeter Peak Ambusher.
Okay.
I've got a 1/3 and a 3/3 coming at you.
Gotcha. And I can only block one of them?
You can
Or-
block as many creatures as you have. You can decide to block.
Oh, so
what
I can block each of the creatures I'm using to block blocks one of the creatures you're using to attack.
Right. Or you could even decide that both of them are going to
okay.
block a single creature. And when that happens, it takes damage from both of them, and then you split its damage amongst them how you want.
I see.
So you get to decide how to break that up.
Gotcha.
And that's part of the strategy of this game, where I'm putting numbers at you,
Right.
and you get to decide how to deal with them. But neither of these have trample,
Uh-huh.
and your creatures have a 1/1 and a 2/3.
Right.
So neither of these could be killed by them, but what you defend and to stop change things.
Right. So together these have a 4 toughness. So if I use both of them to block this,
Right.
none of that gets through.
Mm-hmm.
And the damage is split between them.
Right. Which would
So-
kill one of them, one way or the other.
Gotcha.
But you could decide to block and let one of them live and kill my Mind Flayer.
Well, if that has attack is 3,
Yes,
this has a 3 toughness and that has a 1 toughness.
correct.
So,
You could put 1 point and then 2 points.
gotcha. Oh, I decide how the damage.
You decide how it breaks
Gotcha.
down.
So at least one of them is going to die if I do that.
Right.
Well, okay. You can't be dauntless forever, so they're both going to defend against the Mind Flayer.
Excellent. So that's 1 point of damage coming through.
Okay, so that brings me down to 18.
Mm-hmm. And now we'll determine how this breaks down.
Gotcha.
So 3 damage comes into here. He's dead.
Right.
3 damage split between them. How are you dividing that?
Now, 3 damage on the Dauntless Survivor is overkill,
But no trample.
but there's no trample, so I'm allowed to put 3 and he's still fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Boom.
It doesn't
So-
have to be, well, he can only absorb 1, so this guy has to absorb 2.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
You can break it up like that.
Gotcha.
And so that he dies and he dies.
Yeah, you
Because
can
he's got to
kill-
take some, but
So you can kill him and make the bones bounce, and that works fine.
exactly.
Got it.
I'm just imagining Mind Flayer, but I also love how narratively what you've got here
Yes.
is Mind Flayer coming in, the Goblin sneaks through, but the Mind Flayer fights the Dauntless Survivor, and the vampire sweeps in and kills the Mind Flayer in the middle of the fight.
I like it.
This team-up match, this dramatic fight, all based on comparing numbers here.
Yes. Oh, did we lose our... We did.
We did. We lost our Phil light. Phil, no!
I am going to be back in one moment. Talk to the people. Ian?
Okay. Hopefully this has been easy to understand for you as well, audience. This is a quick overview of this game, and we're going to get a lot deeper into Magic the Gathering as story in the podcast episode coming up. But without some of the mechanical elements that we're talking about here, the use of those mechanical elements as story narrative and beat and the structure in which it tells its narratives and story, we can't discuss that. These are the tools Magic uses to write with. And I wanted to have that example and the idea of the different flavors of mana and the idea of the different creatures and how no matter what, Magic has to be a game, and then it can tell a story with that. And so the thought process always starts from the mechanical, or if it starts from the narrative, it has to become mechanical at some point. There's that flavor versus function aspect. This lets us have a baseline of function, which is the thing Magic is introducing that the movies and TV shows we usually discuss don't have in the same way. The closest thing we've run into is Myst and other video games, where the pacing and the interaction is controlled by the player, but you don't have the random elements that Magic does, or the wild variety of mechanical components Magic does. Magic is a machine that keeps inventing new types of gears to add to itself. So It's constantly evolving in a way that a game or a movie, which is set in its own way, doesn't do the same thing. So hopefully this has been easy enough to follow and useful enough to give you, audience, as well, a baseline for what we will be discussing as the canvas, as the paint, as the way in what Magic talks about. Huzzah! Waha!
There we go.
Yay! For the sake of our time, I'm actually going to suggest that we shave ourselves down to 10 points to start.
10 points.
Yeah, so puts me at 2 life, puts you at 8.
All right.
So that means that I'm a little bit closer to death, but I want us to be able to explore some of the rest of Magic before we get too late into the night.
Sounds good.
Okay. So, with that grand combat out of the way, I've got nothing else to play, and I end my turn.
All right, so I untap.
And you untap your creature, too.
Untap my creature, and he still stays at the +1.
The counter means it stays around.
Gotcha.
They become a form of permanent marker to hold a space in play.
Okay, I've got nothing to upkeep. And I draw just one card?
Just one card.
Gotcha.
Different cards will let you draw sometimes different ways. Green loves to search up lands faster. Black might let you use your graveyard to supplement your hand, kind of like what Cleaving Reaper here does. Blue is known for drawing cards off the deck, sometimes by searching the top and such. Gotcha. Red is known for throwing cards off the top and hoping you have what you need to play them. And white is not great at card draw. Each of those different colors having a different way to deal with the fact that there's this slow rollout of cards from your deck in the form of that once per turn draw.
All right. Well, then I am going to tap 1 swamp and 2 forests to play another vampire spawn.
Oh! Excellent.
So I gain 2 life, and you lose 2 life.
And by our new rules, that puts me at 0.
Oh my goodness.
That was
quick.
That was quick. Little bit of swing there changes things quickly. But the effect of just entering play, he sucks the last of the life at me.
So that could happen even without battles.
Even without battles,
away at someone's
you can
life.
be chipping away. You're using effects only. But mechanically, that's impacting in different ways. And I want to just see, and we've got all sorts of different cards here. Archmage Emeritus here, that foil, that special cards here, from the blue and red deck. Gain means that when I cast instant and sorcery spells, like that Thundering Rebuke, it duplicates them. He makes them happen twice. Things like that. Or actually, no. Oh, no, he doesn't make it happen twice. Whenever I play them, he causes me to draw a card.
Oh, okay. So that's another way you can build up your deck.
He rewards me for playing those.
And you can do that even if it brings you above 7. 7's not a limit.
7 is a limit at the end of your turn. You've got to discard back down to 7.
But if you have things you can play to bring it down to 7, you can do that. Got it.
Or I've got creature cards here that give cards haste. Haste means they don't get summoning sickness. They hit the field ready to go. So he would let me make things ready to fight early.
Gotcha.
I've got red dragons that when they enter the battlefield, deal 5 damage to each opponent, breathing their fire. Do you want to take a look at some of the rest of your cards that we didn't encounter yet?
Sure.
Yeah.
And some of the things that I had in my hand but I didn't have a chance to play yet include a sorcery called Rabid Bite.
Ooh.
Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a target creature you don't control.
So that lets you have a card attack another card without combat.
Right. Oh, that's outside of combat.
Outside of combat. So you could...
So that can be played at any time as a sorcery?
Sorcery means you can play it during any of your main phases.
Main phase, got it.
But imagine being able to have your giant 6/6 angel here and being able to make it bite one creature and deal 6 and then attack with it.
Gotcha.
And hit another creature for 6 as well.
And instant, you can play at any time.
Anytime.
Provided that the card details permit that.
Right.
Or don't tell you not to.
And so this one, Might of Marasa is a 1 in a green here. It has kicker. You can pay 2 and a green extra when you play it. So it lets you change how much you're paying for it. Target creature gains +3/+3 until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, that creature gains +5/+5 until the end of turn instead. So it lets you power up your things, or if you can pay more mana, maybe later in the game and such, power them up even more.
Okay.
And so these kind of moments, like you can see how each of those has this narrative element, but this mechanical element of strength and applying it. And also look at how they play together. You could do that, make your creature bigger temporarily, and then make it hit something with that temporary extra attack for even more damage by putting them together.
Okay.
Cards interact in all those different ways. And when you've got a game that's been around since '92, you can imagine how many different cards and how many different interactions that means there are out there.
I can imagine. I mean, how many thousands of different Magic the Gathering cards have been published at this point?
There's a wonderful site called...
It's got to be thousands.
There is a wonderful site called Scryfall.
Yeah?
Which is a library, a visual library of every Magic card ever printed. And it's thousands upon thousands of cards.
I can only imagine.
And let's not even include the fact that cards get reprinted.
Yeah.
With cards that came out in early sets get new artwork and new printings in new sets where they are natural. I mean, where they make sense story and world-wise. So there's dozens of artworks, dozens of versions. And there's also special artworks and special versions of cards. So there's cards. There's 4 pages of versions of them, and it's just a single one. Do you count those as different cards? Or is that all instances of one card?
Are you talking about for playing, or are you talking about for collecting? Because those have different significance.
Or are you talking about for story?
Yeah.
The cards that are Lightning Bolt, the classic 1 red, deal 3 damage card.
Yeah.
There are lightning bolts in different sets where that kind of calling down lightning from the sky story fits. So it's also interesting to kind of think, I'm going to give a little bit of preview. Think about movies we've watched. There are similar scenes and moments across different movies. If every single movie was a set of Magic cards, those would be reprints.
Okay.
But story-wise, they still fill that same sort of void.
Right.
So that's part of what this lets us do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and if I've been able to play one more land,
yes,
I would have been able to put onto the battlefield Asmodeus the Archfiend.
Oh.
Which is a 6/6 card and is making me nostalgic for the 80s D&D Satanic Panic.
Yes. He's a legendary creature. So he's
legendary creature devil god.
Yeah, legendary creature means he's an important character in the story. There's multiple vampire spawns. They're just a creature. He is the only Asmodeus the Archfiend.
Gotcha. You're only going to have one of him.
Which is why he's legendary in that sense. There's a difference. It's the difference between being a thug in Batman or being a Batman himself. Gotcha. Batman's a legendary creature.
Yeah.
Thug, there might be multiple.
Right. And the Joker is a legendary creature. His clown minions, not so much.
Exactly.
I've got Carfell Kennelmaster, a creature zombie berserker. Spectre of the Fens. Lots of interesting creatures.
Yeah.
And Scurrid Colony.
Black has the kind of the dark and sinister aspect going on, but it's not evil.
No, it's just a particular aspect of reality or of nature.
Exactly.
Something I like about the combination of the green and black.
Hey, I can understand. Different people love different colors. I, ironically enough for picking this one, have a hard time playing impulsive red decks. I've always had trouble with red as my colors. I play a whole lot of white, blue, and white, blue, or white, green, and black as my colors in a lot of my decks.
Yeah.
Because the thematic elements that those have relate to me harder, and they fit with what I like to do in my games. Some people, they are all about red, white. I am orderly and I am aggressive. Charge my army. The colors, even across different stories, keep those fundamental natures, and that means that it becomes a way to immediately understand pieces of the story. It becomes shorthand in some ways, but also becomes this exploratory depth where What is this story's version of being impulsive? What is this story's version of being orderly? A world of grand magical forests isn't going to be purely green mana. It might have very strong green cards in it, but it still has its aspects of white order and blue intelligence and black macabre and red impulsiveness all mixed throughout it. And it'll still show in their design the different parts of how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're ready to explore some of their multiverse.
All right. So what does this mean? Let me gather up my cards here.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely not the last time I play Magic the Gathering.
Oh, no.
This was fun. I feel like I've wrapped my mind around this for the first time in a long while, at very least.
Oh, yeah. And I'd love for you to be able to, hold on to those decks. You'll be able to review them. We'll be able to talk about them. But what I've got here is a set of 6 decks. 6 packs, I mean.
Yep.
6 packs from different stories that we've had in Magic the Gathering.
A little bit.
Oh, toward the middle?
The image?
There we go. Center of the image?
Yeah.
That good.
Okay.
So these are all different stories that Magic has told recently.
All right.
We've got, and I will, so pick whichever one interests you. And while you open the pack, I'll tell you an overview of what type of story that is. And then you can see what cards you get, and we can see what pieces of that story, what pieces of that world this is about.
Okay.
I described earlier that Magic is, you are planeswalkers. You walk between worlds, the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Every single Magic the Gathering set takes place in different worlds or different, sometimes they go back to worlds, but they're talking about different stories that happen there.
Gotcha. So there is
different planes.
A background narrative that's written and published about what's happening across the planes.
Mm-hmm. There have been books and stories of Magic the Gathering posted on their online forums, in their magazines, published as books, all throughout. There's talk of Magic the Gathering TV shows and movies and such.
Wow.
Because Magic the Gathering is a story that connects a bunch of individual stories.
So let's see. We've got Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, which is Magic the Gathering getting to do Lord of the Rings. This is them actually presenting Lord of the Rings as Magic the Gathering, which is an interesting example of their universes beyond. Magic the Gathering telling a different story than Magic's.
And we've got something called the Brothers' War.
Ravnica Remastered.
Ravnica Remastered. Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And Kamigawa.
Neon Dynasty.
Neon Dynasty. Kamigawa. Like the River of God, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, Outlaws of Thunder Junction looks really interesting. I'm going to save that.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the Brothers' War, only because that is the least explicable to me on its face.
Okay.
It looks like it has a giant robot and a guy doing something with a crystal.
Yes. The Brothers' War was Magic the Gathering actually with a time travel narrative going back to one of its early stories and telling it new. Kind of like a remake of a classic movie in that sense. It is about a pair of powerful brothers, Urza and I can't remember his brother's name. Urza's the one we follow most. Him and his brother get in a giant battle over as the commanders of 2 armies, thanks to them both being archaeologists of magical artifacts and fighting over the grand discovery they found.
Huh.
Their war and the grand, terrifying machines of magically powered destruction shaped the continent of Dominaria for centuries to come, and the remnants and artifacts that they left behind in their devastating fight are the MacGuffins and terrifying weapons that are the core pieces of dozens of other stories Magic has told through the years. So this is them going back and showing this cataclysmic fight between brothers that ripped continents apart.
Oh, cool.
No one remembers Mishra. That's his name. Yep, no one remembers Mishra. Not even Mishra by the end of the story.
No one remembers Mishra. That sounds like a very sad 90s sitcom. No one remembers Mishra.
Oh, goodness. No, I'm just...
So, should I open this up to see what's inside?
Open it up.
All right.
So, one thing I'll note is that these boosters have different listings here. Set, draft, and play. Magic the Gathering boosters are opened for a variety of reasons.
Right.
One of the ways to use them is to play the game. There is such a thing known as a draft, where you go in with no cards, but you're given packs. You open up the packs and build with what you've got there, forcing you to adapt to what you've got and passing cards between other players to build your deck over the course of it, interacting with everyone on the deck building part early.
Okay.
Or there's Sealed, where people open packs and build with what they've got all on their own.
All right.
So,
this is what was in that pack.
yes. And so, you've got an art card,
An art card.
which shows some of the artwork of the cards in the set.
Nice.
That's very nice. Magic the Gathering is known for having artists work with actual paint and medium. Full portraiture being made for every single card, then
Nice.
high quality photographed and scaled down.
Okay.
And let's lay out what you got
All right.
and take a look.
So I've got
Full art land.
a basic land called Plains.
Mm-hmm.
An artifact creature construct, Blitz Automaton.
Yeah. And-
Sorcery of an epic confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's going on with this automaton? It's got some special red text, it looks like.
Yeah, so every single set of Magic the Gathering will introduce its own special mechanics.
Oh,
Different ways that it makes its cards and creatures unique for its story. So in
that says prototype. You may cast this spell with different mana, cost, color, and size. It keeps its abilities and types. So it has a different strength and toughness
right.
and a mana cost for that.
So it has the cost of playing 7 to make it this big thing. Or you can pay this smaller cost to get
Oh.
a tiny prototype version, which means that mechanically the Brothers' War is able to tell this story of these giant mechanical engines of destruction made by the brothers as they fight their battle. But you're putting out these small prototypes.
This is the beta test version.
Beta
It's
test
not
version.
quite as strong.
And then later on, you're playing, when you've got all the mana, you're playing the giant completed versions of these engines and these weapons of war.
So we've got another sorcery called Sibling Rivalry.
Cool.
You gain control of a target artifact or creature.
And for things that are both artifacts and creatures, that could pull either one.
Nice.
So
And this is just an artifact, Aeronaut's Wings. You equip a creature with this, they get +1/+0.
So yeah,
And they get flying.
artifacts being the tools and mechanical items, the legendary swords and shields and mechanical wings,
Gotcha.
those MacGuffins. And if you've got a robot, that's both a artifact and a creature. That's the fun things that can combine.
Disciples of Gix.
Mm-hmm.
A creature, a Phyrexian human.
Ooh, Phyrexian. New group. And over here, you can see the little colored symbol tells you what set it's from.
Oh, okay.
The color also tells you how rare it is.
I see.
Common cards, uncommon cards. The rarer the card, not only the more powerful it is, sometimes the more dramatic a moment in the story it is.
Got it.
So they'll use that rarity sometimes to play with the narrative too.
A Transmogrant Altar artifact. You
Ooh.
sacrifice a creature to gain mana, I presume?
What does it say?
Add little symbols.
That is colorless mana.
Oh, colorless mana.
So it's mana
All
that
purpose?
can't be used for the colored things.
Oh, it's not all purpose. It's only for whatever.
But
It's
artifacts, which are so important to the set, usually don't have color to them.
Gotcha.
They're not imbued with the nature of
they're
the
not
land.
part of the web of life. They're just
their things. So the idea of being able to sacrifice creatures by paying deathly black mana as part of it to create mana for creating machines has that very, very disturbing element.
a Skyfisher spider.
Here's an interesting example of a creature that has both colors.
Huh.
It is both black and green.
Yeah.
And it will therefore have effect and possibly impact that combines the natures of both.
Helm of the Host.
Ooh. Ooh.
Beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of the equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that token gains haste.
And I'd like to point out something really cool.
Yeah.
As you can see, the style and art and design of Magic has changed over the years.
Yeah.
This is an old style frame.
I was gonna say
This
that looks-
frame of card is them going back, because this is a time travel story, they used the card art styles
Oh,
of the
nice.
early sets of Magic the Gathering to show that going back to the past and grabbing stuff. That's also a legendary rare card. That card is like a chase rare, people hunt for it. That's a
Oh wow.
high value card. Tony, difference between generic and colorless mana. Generic mana is what you spend out of anything. Colorless mana can only be spent on generic. So it's more like a use versus nature aspect there. But that's a really cool card to grab.
Neat. See, we have an Ornithopter. It's
Yeah.
flying.
It is flying.
It is flying.
It's it's
an artifact creature.
It's an artifact creature. And it costs.
I thought it was a sorcery.
It costs 0.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, very nice.
A legendary creature, Hercule the Master Wizard.
Oh, very nice.
The legendary creature, human wizard advisor. Mm-hmm. And the Symmetry Matrix, which is another artifact.
Oh, wow. Nice pack.
Nice. And I can see what you mean. There's sort of a distinct techno-magic feel to these. Oh, and there's also a blank card.
Oh, yes.
You can represent a card without a magic back.
Mm-hmm. So some cards need tokens or other representation.
I see.
The packs will give you that.
Gotcha.
But just from this pack alone, yeah, that techno-magic feel and this nature of building your things, the dark choices made for the sake of battle.
Sacrificial altars and things.
The flavor of this story is coming through.
Yeah.
But it's not like you got a consistent storyline through it. You got bits and pieces of the storyline presented to you here alone. Even in the land, shows, if we can show it here, the shadow of a giant robot towering over the plains to show the sheer scale of the things being sent out and fighting in this war.
That's great.
So the Brothers' War is this techno-magic battle of terrifying proportions and consequences.
I like it.
So, that's a pack.
I can see the attraction of buying and collecting packs and opening them to see what's in there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, some people love just the art, some people love the story, some people love the game and the play. There's a lot of different ways to approach Magic. So, what's your next one?
I'm going to go with Outlaws of Thunder Junction now because it seems like it's a different direction.
Okay. Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Thanks to things that happened in previous stories of Magic, the worlds have opened up to each other. And so in this town on the edges of a world filled with its own magic, this small Thunder Junction is growing. And people are adventuring out into the lands of this place, and it is the western, full of bandits and shootouts, because there's talk of a giant vault, and it's gathered a whole lot of unsavory characters into town who are taking jobs and fighting each other, and some people are just trying to make a living, and others are here for the big prize.
I like it.
So Magic the Gathering does a western.
Okay, so let's open this up, see what's in here.
Exactly.
Once again, an art series card.
Yes.
which appears to have a giant frog or lizard type creature.
Throwing people off their horses.
Oh. And a giant ornery lizard type creature.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's see.
So we've got Creosote Heath, which is a land, a desert.
And this is interesting because it's a land that is both green and white. So it's special lands that interact differently.
We've got Mirage Mesa, another land. A sorcery, Skewer the Critics, which has a newspaper kind of design to it.
Just like they did with the old style frames, different sets of Magic the Gathering will sometimes, especially more modernly as they improve their printing, have been playing around with newer frame types that don't look like a Magic the Gathering always does, but give you more flavor in the way it presents its story.
Right. I like that. Concealed Courtyard, another land. Tomb Trawler, artifact creature, a golem.
Yeah.
Looks like a giant robot type thing, or a stone golem.
Yeah. Looks like it's got a shovel. That might be a golem sent to bury the dead after a shootout.
Or to unbury the dead if they're buried with things that are valuable.
That too.
Outcaster Greenblade, which is a human mercenary creature.
Very nice.
Intimidation Campaign, which is an enchantment.
So that's going to be an effect that sticks around, like an instant or a sorcery that does not leave.
I see.
Sometimes that means you're doing something to the world. Sometimes that means you're doing something to a creature or a player.
So it does something to every creature, or it does something to you and your opponent, each gain or lose a life, respectively. And then whenever you commit a crime, you may return Intimidation Campaign to its owner's hand.
And does it explain what a crime is?
No.
Okay.
Does it?
No. Oh, yes. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard is a crime.
That's a crime.
A lot of cards, if it can, they'll explain text in brackets underneath.
Got it.
So the idea of like, oh yeah, I messed with your stuff. That's a crime. I get to do stuff. So mechanically, Thunder Junction had crime and such as a mechanic all on its own.
Outlaw's Fury is another instant, which boosts creatures that you control. Harrier Strix, which is a bird creature.
Ah, very nice, bird.
Conduit Pylons are... It looks kind of a Nikola Tesla 19th century electrical technology kind of thing. I like it. Black Snag Buzzard, another bird creature.
Ah, yeah.
Stagecoach Security, a human soldier creature.
Very fun.
Reckless Lackey, which is a goblin pirate creature.
I love that.
And Giant Beaver, creature, beaver mount. You can ride around on a giant beaver?
You can.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, you've got creatures that other creatures can ride and give bonuses to. And you can see, just in the way the number of cards you got are, the idea of the wide open lands in this Western, by giving you more lands, kind of fits. There was a lot of different land cards they had in here. They played around with that, but once again, you get this different flavor and feeling.
Very cool.
Yay. And I love how the Intimidation Campaign keeps going as long as you keep doing crime.
Let's order sushi and not pay.
What?
Oh. It's from a movie I'll have to show you soon.
Ooh.
Let's go do crimes.
Let's go do crimes. I like that. Okay, what's your next story?
Okay, let's do another one of these. Gonna go with Ravnica Remastered.
Okay.
Tell me about Ravnica.
Ravnica is one of the most popular stories and planes in Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Ravnica is a world that is all city.
Oh.
This grand city of Ravnica that sprawls in all directions. It is the city of guilds, run by 10 organizations, each of them represented by 2 of the 5 colors of magic. So for every combination of 2, there is a guild.
Okay.
The 10 guilds run this entire city as this organization. And Ravnica Remastered was them redoing cards from the original Ravnica sets as a grand summary, kind of a director's cut of the story they've already told. But Ravnica itself is full of flavor because every single guild has a purpose in the city, be that the guards, be that the information brokers, the bankers, the lawyers, the maintenance workers, the inventors. All of them are guilds helping the city run, but there is intrigue and political back and forth. Ravnica is this weird mix of being able to be a sprawling environment dozens of other stories can happen in, and at the same time being West Wing with magic sometimes in the best way.
All right. Aaron Sorkin's Magic the Gathering.
Talon Wolfen points out there's only 9 guilds. The 10th one is secret.
Okay.
The Guild of Secrets is not listed. Everyone thinks there's 9.
And I see Talon has in chat, Ornithopter, a.k.a. why zero cost is a bad idea. I gather that this game has been around long enough that there are strong opinions about the stories, about the mechanics, about specific cards.
There are strong opinions, and there are strong opinions within the community. There are strong opinions from game designers.
Wow.
And even strong opinions conflicting with each other inside Magic sometimes about who's best at what and what's best options.
A token creature, a spirit.
Yes.
Like, I guess we need a creature. Come on in.
Yeah. So, no, this is sometimes cards will make other cards on the field.
Okay.
So think about that horn of...
Oh, the token. I get it.
Yeah. So
apply a token to something.
Yeah. This helm says create a copy of that as a token. So some cards it'll be like, okay, when I die, create a 1/1 spirit token. And so that kind of represents coming back like that in its own way. So tokens are a piece of the way Magic expands and let things happen.
Okay. See, here we have a land, the Boros Guild's Gate.
And as a fun bit of flavor on this one, artwork-wise, they put the symbols of the different guilds as background elements behind the text. So you'll be able to see what's affiliated with what group.
The Celestia Guild Gate.
Nice.
A Cloudfin Raptor. A bird mutant creature. A Cyclonic Rift, which is an instant. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. A Frilled Mystic creature, Elf Lizard Wizard.
Elf Lizard Wizard.
Elf Lizard Wizard. I want to just say that over and over for the rest of the night.
It's fun, isn't it?
Elf Lizard Wizard. Demon Fire Sorcery. You deal damage to any target. What does it mean when it says you deal X damage?
Look up in the top.
It says X and a red, I believe.
It's math-based.
Oh,
X means you can pay however much.
However much you pay for it, that's how much damage you can do. Got it.
It seems weird, but Magic the Gathering is a game with algebra.
That was a big part of the way it was promoted and the way it was talked about in gaming circles back in the early 90s was this was created by a mathematician to follow certain mathematical structures. It still has that. Orbis Protector, creature human cleric. A Slitherhead creature, plant zombie. Forced Adaptation, enchantment aura. You can enchant a creature during your upkeep. Kiara's Dambreaker, a creature leviathan. A great big fish.
Very nice.
The Boros Elite creature, a human soldier. And almost every creature has something special about the way they behave, what they can do.
Yeah, creatures, like, it's like some cards are vanilla, they won't have an effect, but a lot of creatures, they all have effects and interactions. It's rare, especially in modern Magic, to have cards that don't build in some ways or do something else interesting.
A Goblin Electromancer creature, Goblin Wizard.
I love that, like the idea of like goblins, and this is the other thing, like the way Magic will depict different groups. Like the goblins might all have a theme to the way goblins on this plane work, but there will be goblin wizards and goblin workers and goblin soldiers and such. Being goblin and being the other thing are both part of who they are.
And different planes may have goblins, but they're not going to be the same goblins because they are from a different environment.
Right. The goblins on Tarkir, a land of dragons and such, are going to be serving the dragons. While the goblins of Ravnica are office workers, and those are different roles. They're all goblins, but they're all different things in what they're doing.
Wojek Bodyguard, a human soldier.
Yeah.
Dimir House Guard, a skeleton creature.
Ooh.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Fear. This creature can't be blocked except by artifact creatures. So a robot can block it because a robot's not going to be afraid.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
Yep.
And Blade Brand instant. Target creature gains death touch until the end of the turn.
Oh, so death touch means that no matter how much damage it does, it kills what it hits.
Oh.
So you can imagine like a lethal assassination. And the skeleton, it's anything that's artifact or black. So it's like either you're already aligned with the creepiness, like you're already used to it, or you don't feel emotion. I can fight I can fight a skeleton, but
So a creature with black is like, okay, congratulations, you're scary. Let's get on with the fight.
exactly. But right here, like let's look at the different groups. If we go by the symbols on them, we've got these different guilds. And here it is. Here's a bird. It's not part of any one of them. It's just a bird.
It's just a bird.
But it's still part of the world, and so it's a piece of its flavor. But we've got, goblin electromancers building cyclonic rifts. We've got the Golgari, the black-green, doing things that scavenge and eat away. They're cleaning up the city. They're the trash collectors living in the sewers in that sense. We've got the Boros with their guild gate here. Soldiers, all. They're the city town guards. Goblins and cyclonic rifts are experimental Izzet with their red and blue. Each of the groups have a name, and they're each telling their little bit of the world and story with their pieces here.
And I can see how those fit together to a really interesting story dynamic.
Mm-hmm. And so, just as I was saying, some people love certain colors when they're building their decks.
Yeah.
People will get invested in their color combinations. People are like, kind of the same way people will want to join up with a group in other stories, and which house do you like in Game of Thrones,
Right.
things like that. People will have their banners and like, this is are you an Izzet player? Do you prefer Selesnya? They're all mechanically different, narratively different. There's reasons to go with one or the other.
Very cool. And yet it all breaks down into the same fundamental mechanics. So once you grasp those, you can add all of this interesting flavor, all these different variations card by card, and each one becomes comprehensible because it always goes back down to that original math and that original, you pay this much to play, to put it on the battlefield. It can attack in these ways. You go number versus number for the battles.
Mm-hmm. Once you've got the mechanics of how Magic the Gathering works as a game, the way Magic the Gathering uses its game to tell its story open up, which is why the idea of playing a game here for us to be able to discuss later is a huge part of it.
That's great.
So we've got 3 more. We've got Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and Magic the Gathering does Lord of the Rings.
I'm going to save Lord of the Rings.
Okay, let's save that.
I'm going to go with Ixalan.
Ixalan.
Tell me about Ixalan.
Ixalan is going to be the plane of exploration in the South American jungle. This is going to be grand Incan temples, and it has issues with, there is a group of conquistador vampires starting to work its way in. There are ancient cities and temples in power, and native people fighting for who gets to maintain control of their land and dealing with these newcomers entering. There's pirates patrolling the seas. It's a world of high adventure and grand history in that sense.
Cool. All right, so here we've got, oh, these tokens?
Yeah.
All right, I think we are still going.
Excellent.
So, what are these tokens?
These are +1/+1 or stun and finality tokens. Oh, there we go.
All right, we have caught up. Good.
Yep, we've caught up.
So +1/+1 and
Stun and finality.
stun and finality.
So different cards might, in this set might put tokens onto cards in play.
Okay.
And so Magic the Gathering nowadays might put in a card full of tokens. That way, just opening packs can give you enough to be able to play. I described before how draft and sealed are ways people play. So they want you to be able to open packs and put what you've got right into play, into what you're playing with as pretty fast.
And that's where I see, the tournaments, it starts out with you've got a certain number of packs to open up and assemble a deck or a cube.
Oh, we froze for a bit, but we're good now.
Good, 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 good. Thank you.
Thank you. All set.
All right, so
We've opened the Lost Caverns of Ixalan pack.
Lost Caverns of Ixalan, a swamp basic land, and that's an interesting design. That's like full bleed.
Full bleed. They've got their own version of the artworks.
Ah.
As Magic evolves, as their printing gets better, they are doing more and more experimental things to tell their story.
Oh, not quite full bleed. It's got like a black border that gives it that illusion. I like it.
Yep. There are full bleed, full art cards that go past the edge nowadays. But
Kellen, a daring traveler.
and this one's interesting because you can play it also as a sorcery.
Oh.
On Journey.
It can be a creature or a sorcery.
This one,
like it.
this one actually lets you play it as a sorcery, and then once it's done with its adventure, it can come in as a creature, letting you have a character that has an entire little adventure before he arrives into the fight.
Zoetic Glyph, an aura enchantment. Mischievous Pup, a dog creature. It's got puppies.
There's puppies.
There's puppies in Magic.
There's kitties. My darling Jen, who's in chat right now, has a deck full of puppies and kitties.
When Mischievous Pup enters the battlefield, return up to one other target permanent. Oh, it fetches.
It
I like
fetches
it.
things.
Yeah.
Isn't it adorable? And that's the other thing. It's like, oh yeah.
Swashbuckler's Whip, an equipment artifact. Inverted Iceberg artifact.
So
it says mill a card. What does that mean?
mill means send a card from the top of your deck to the grave.
Okay.
Mill, ironically enough, is a term that formed from the name of a card. There was a card called Millstone, which sent cards from the top of a deck to a grave. And if you run out of cards in your deck, that's another way to lose.
Oh, okay.
Running out of cards is another way to lose. So this became a method for an alternate Windgate edition. But you were describing before how fun the names are.
Yes.
It's also interesting where the names can become important in their own right.
It develops its own vocabulary over the course of 30 years.
And the concept of millstone, this idea of this grinding sound that would slowly eat away at your opponent, shortened over time to mill.
I like it.
And that works. And this is interesting. Yeah. This card, flip it over. It's double-sided.
It's a double-sided card.
There
Iceberg Titan and Inverted Iceberg.
Cards can be double-sided in Magic nowadays. Why do they give you these little tokens to represent stuff sometimes?
Yeah.
Because there are cards that can do different things and transform and change over time.
That's why this says you can use this card to represent a card without a magic back.
Right.
Like this does not have a back. It's got two faces.
But you need something that you can shuffle in a deck and not know what it is coming up. So, hence those those representational, those marker cards that you can use for these.
Cool.
You just write down what you're putting in and put it off to
I
the
see.
side.
You put that off to the side, and if that that placeholder card comes up, oh, that's this. I
That's
can
in
pull
my
that.
hand, but it's in both sides.
Got it. I see. Malamet Scythe, another artifact equipment.
Yes. Ooh.
Over the Edge, sorcery, destroy a target artifact or enchantment.
It's pushing it off the... Once again, the sorceries and the instants are going to be these moments of narrative, and the characters and everything, and the items are these artifacts and creatures.
Cogwork Wrestler,
Ah!
an artifact creature gnome.
And once again, these are still artifacts and artifact creatures, but it's got a different feel than the Brothers' War and its grand artifacts in its own right.
Abrade is another instant. Does damage to a target creature.
Ooh.
Song of Stupefaction, an enchantment aura.
Nice.
Atali's Favor, another enchantment aura. Enchant a creature you control.
And so the idea of all these enchantments, there's a lot of curses and boons and all of those coming into this, where the magic of these things is impacting your characters and changing who and what they are.
Vito's Inquisitor, Vampire Knight.
Aha!
A Quicksand Whirlpool. Yeah, I can see we got the Conquistador armor on this guy who's falling prey to the Quicksand Whirlpool.
And if you look at Vito's Inquisitor, the vampires are the conquistadors, is an interesting thing where they did the storyline idea of these things sucking away the life showing up.
What's worse than a whirlpool or a quicksand? A quicksand
Then
whirlpool. Fungal Fortitude. I think there is a shop on Colfax with that name.
I think there is.
I don't think they have anything to do with Magic the Gathering.
I just want to know, in Magic the Gathering is published in all sorts of different languages, translated and it's worldwide. I want to know if on the other side of the equator they printed Quicksand Whirlpool's artwork flipped. Does it spin the other way? But yeah.
And I can see where it's, and maybe it's just which sets of cards I happen to get in these packs, but it's not just the difference in the imagery and the flavor and the story aspects, but there seems to be some influence on the sorts of mechanics you tend to see.
Yes.
We saw more of that interaction between the groups and their lands and their portals and things in Ravnica. And we saw more of setting up machines and then the machines do your bidding in the Brothers' War.
And this one, with its adventures and its auras and its artifacts equipment, a lot more equipment and such, but its artifact creatures are these small little automatons. Meanwhile, these other things are turning into these giant golems and such. It has much more that adventure, explore, Indiana Jones, stick the chalice artifact into place and the entire thing lights up with magic kind of feeling.
This sense of you're exploring a new world and you have what you can carry to do it with.
Exactly. So just the mechanics influence the narrative and the narrative influences the mechanics, and each set introduces a new story and new mechanics to go with it. Going back to Ravnica, they brought old mechanics back, but they showed new ones. Every new set gives new opportunities.
Very cool.
Yay! We got 2 more to go. You want to see last
Sure,
bits?
shall we?
Yes. So, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, or you want to see Lord of the Rings?
Well, I think it's Kamigawa Neon. No, I'm going to go with Lord of the Rings. I know least about Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, although I can make some guesses. So I'm going to save Kamigawa until later.
Okay,
Going to open Lord of the Rings.
And this is Universes Beyond. Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond is a newer thing where they are doing stories that are not Magic the Gathering.
So these are their tie-ins, like Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings.
All of those
like
fall under Universes Beyond.
Gotcha.
That means a Magic the Gathering, it tells new stories, but there are characters that move from place to place.
Right.
Other planeswalkers. Main characters. And a lot of the stories start with one of these planeswalkers we know going to the new place. So we've got a character we're following on this adventure. Universes Beyond, completely separate, but it gives them the opportunity to tell these other stories using the mechanics of Magic as a storytelling medium and as a way to represent tales you might already know.
I'm aware of the Lord of the Rings universes beyond because there was a lot of discussion of people taking offense at artwork choices for small-minded reasons.
Yeah.
This Count Life, enter tournaments, and more. Magic.wizards.com/companion.
The back of your tokens can sometimes be advertisements.
Token creature, human soldier. So this is one of those tokens where something calls for a token.
Right.
Token creature, human soldier. Got it. All right. And here we've got an art series card. These look like they're detailed such that if you get enough of the right ones, you can put them together.
They have done that more recently. In this one specifically, there were cards which created panoramas.
All right.
But let's see if you get
Basic land, the plains.
Very nice. Let's see what you've got.
Smite the Deathless, an instant.
Aha.
A battle-scarred goblin, a goblin warrior creature. A troll of Khazad Doom.
Yeah.
Cool. The creature troll.
And once again, these are not legendary, so these are just the generic creatures. But if we can get some of those,
But Elrond, Lord of Rivendell,
Yes!
is an elf noble legendary creature.
and they put him as blue because
Ah.
he's leaning into the intelligent planning
Yeah.
that searches and finds kind of feel of the blue mana. So the story being told through the lens of Magic's 5 colors leads to the colorization of what they show.
Whenever Elrond, Lord of Rivendell, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. What does scry mean?
Scry means look at the top of your card of your deck. You can either put it back on top or put it on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
It's like peering into
Yes.
the future.
If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, the ring tempts you. Is that a special ring mechanic for
There's
Lord
a
of the Rings?
special ring mechanics for
Wow.
Lord of the Rings where the ring can tempt you and do effects to you.
So is the ring in here as an artifact card in the set?
There is an artifact of the One Ring that they printed.
Gandalf, Friend of the Shire. Legendary creature avatar wizard. Flash.
That means he can be played like an instant. So he
Oh.
can show up at any time.
Is
It's
he-
Gandalf. He's never late. He arrives exactly when he means to.
Yes.
They took the line and gave him Flash.
All right, keep your secrets then.
Exactly. That's a fun instance of the
That's great.
mechanics tying in again.
Horses of the Bruinen.
Ah.
Sorcery. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. The horses can go and save people.
Save people, yes.
Ent Draft Basin. It makes you bigger and stronger.
Hey. And you can kind of fit these moments into the story we know.
Yeah.
But especially I wanted to get one of the Universes Beyond sets because it's being able to see a story filtered through instead of originally created for can be a fine example of explaining how Magic tells.
And I can see where it has some of the same appeal as fan fiction, in that you're playing Elrond in a game that is also a story, and he's not necessarily he's not limited to doing the things that he did in the story, but he has certain characteristics and certain behaviors.
Exactly. You could run a deck of orcs and the armies of Mordor in Magic the Gathering here and prove their strength in a way without those pesky hobbits destroying the ring this time. You can have that sort of tale in the way this gets to play.
There were some people who were really into Magic early on in the 90s, and there was even people expressing the idea that, well, tabletop RPGs as we've known them are a thing of the past, and these card-based games, specifically Magic, are the future. And that as if they were going to take over and replace tabletop RPGs. I think that's ridiculous, but I understand better the idea behind that. If what you're interested in is the interaction of characters and the what-if aspect. And you're just the improv storytelling of tabletop RPGs wasn't your jam as much. I can see where this would have been very attractive, and it's very cool. It's a different thing. The idea that it's going to one game has to replace another makes no sense.
No sense.
But I can absolutely see where this has some of the things that some people like about tabletop RPGs, and let them focus on that. And that's great.
Absolutely.
Dunland Crabane, a creature bird horror.
Oh,
The Shire.
Oh, this is a fine example. This is one of those full
Oh,
art
yes.
cards. It goes all the way out to the edge, too.
So is this the Shire, legendary land.
Oh, legendary land. So just like a legendary creature is a place that there's a person there's only one of, a legendary land is a place there's only one of.
Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Vigilance.
Ah, so he doesn't tap when he attacks.
Oh.
So attacking, he's still ready to defend.
Oh, nice. I like that. Fog on the Barrow Downs, an enchantment aura. It can enchant a creature so that it can't attack or block.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Very cool, huh? So, yeah, Boromir, Elrond, Gandalf, they all get to be represented in this story all on their own.
Yeah.
But it still fits. And they have to fill out the entirety of the set of magic. So when they made this one, they dove into some Silmarillion backstory stuff to gain more creatures and such. They spread out into the world.
Now, how many cards does that mean? How much is like a complete set?
A set of magic cards, like a new set that comes out, is
Right.
going to be in the 150 cards range.
It's not a fixed number that each of them has to be, but there's a minimum.
There's a range, yeah.
Gotcha. You have to have enough that you could play a complete game, two sides, using nothing but that set. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Because you want to be able to draft that set, play
Sure.
just that set all on its own. Mm-hmm. You want people to be able to mix it in with the most recent sets in standard. I believe every 2 years, the last 2 years drift off. So the newest sets come in, the old sets leave, and it's constantly a rotation of what's new and playing those so that they interact with each other.
I can understand some of the excitement about new releases too. When people are waiting to see what cards are we going to get, what are they going to either create or pull from the source material, and what are they going to have that's new and interesting when it comes to game mechanics.
Yeah. Game mechanics and how that interacts. And some people are like, ooh, I can't wait to experience this one with its story and its mechanics all on its own. That sounds interesting. Or people like me who play Commander, which plays with cards from every bit of its history. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a card printed in '98 that when it's on the table at the same time as this new card that comes out in a week and a half, these two cards make the math do backflips and they do wild things together. And that the idea of a machine that makes 100 new gears every 3 months, and you get to slot those gears together and try to make the machine run is fun. That's for me like part of the fun of this.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned being able to play old cards. So for sanctioned official standard games, old cards kind of age out.
Yeah, they rotate out of play.
But for other things like Commander or Highlander, they're kind of designed to help let people keep playing with their old cards.
Exactly.
Got it.
Commander, you only need one of a card, and you can build your deck and you can play.
Yeah.
Standard, you can have up to 4 of the same card.
Got it.
And there's also rules. Legendary means you can't have more than one of Elrond on the field.
So Commander is, in that sense, a form of Highlander, in that you can only have one of any given card in your deck.
Commander is a form of Highlander. But that's another, but the different cards interact in that way too. But, Commander was designed for people to be able to enjoy their old cards and their old collections, and it's become so popular. Magic the Gathering makes Commander decks that you can just buy right from the start because it's so popular.
It makes it much more accessible, it seems. And that's important.
And it's mechanically an interesting way to play. Meanwhile, Standard is a constantly evolving, changing puzzle where staying on top of how the community moves, what's new, what's powerful, combinations of these new cards that people figure out. It's It's a puzzle that they're constantly solving.
And I can see that as part of the attraction for some people.
Meanwhile, standard is one thing, but modern takes a specific cut of time and says, past this point, Magic the Gathering changed some of the way the design plans how they build cards.
Okay.
So we know all of these cards are going to be relatively balanced to each other. They're going to work together. Or Vintage and Legacy, which go back in time and say these old cards and the original times Magic was made with their wild powers and their experimental new designs. We get to play with those and experience that again. And Pauper is another popular one, which says that common cards, the lower powered cards, give those a chance. Don't let these rarer, more powerful cards change it. We want to see what the most basic Magic cards we can make happen. There's a lot of fun in that.
Nice.
And here's our last one.
We have time for one more pack.
One more pack, I think, before the end.
Is chat hanging in there?
How you doing, chat?
Okay, so this is Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
Kamigawa was a very controversial set that they made. Magic the Gathering back in the day used to do multiple sets of cards set in a world. They'd do 3 different sets, 3 cycles with a pack in a world before moving on.
Okay.
Kamigawa was their Japanese mythology set, full of samurai and kami and spirits and such. And they didn't do their best job at it.
In terms of their research, their cultural sensitivity.
And their card design.
And their card design.
Their card design was lacking.
Okay.
But when they decided to go back, they pulled upon a lot of other stuff, a lot of anime, a lot of modern and sci-fi aesthetics. And so when they went back, they reintroduced Kamigawa as a world that had gone through a technological revolution.
Oh, so this is like a new approach to Kamigawa.
Yep, this is them going
Their
back to
cyberpunk
Kamigawa,
version.
doing cyberpunk world.
Okay.
So this is Magic the Gathering does sci-fi powered by spirits.
Which sounds very a Samurai Jack, and I mean that in the best possible way.
The best possible way.
The art series is Undercity Scrounger by Mark Giordana. Oh, that's cool.
And immediately that top art.
Oh, wow.
The way they did that's a forest land.
Oh, okay. So
The symbol is
I was
all.
gonna say that means woods. That's a forest.
That's the forest.
Cool.
And now you get to go into
Moon Circuit Hacker, Enchantment Creature Human Ninja, Grafted Growth, Enchantment Aura. A lot of green cards here. Greater Tanuki. We got Tanukis.
Tanuki.
Enchantment Creature Dog.
Yay!
Another dog.
Another dog. And this is
Now, Enchantment Creature, that means it can be used as an enchantment, can also be used as a
it means
creature.
it is both.
It is both.
There are cards that care about enchantments,
Yeah.
and there are cards that care about being creatures.
Gotcha.
And being an enchantment also narratively implies that it's this mystical spirit.
I like that.
It's not just a creature. It's also a magical force impacting the space around it in that sense.
Commune with Spirits, sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you can reveal an enchantment or a land card from among them and put it into your hand.
Finding the
rest in the
the
bottom.
spirits and the enchantments, the nature in the area.
Magic the Gathering does Shinto.
Yes.
Explosive Entry. That's very anime.
Then we're back to the-
Destroy up to 1 target attack, or artifact, excuse me. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature.
We go straight from Magic the Gathering to Shinto to, hey, you want to do Akira?
Boon of Boseiju, an instant. Another boost for a target creature.
Very nice.
Orochi Merge Keeper. A snake druid. A merge keeper, rather. A snake druid creature. Touch the Spirit Realm enchantment. When Touch the Spirit Realm enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until Touch the Spirit Realm leaves the battlefield. Okay.
So it takes it out of play. Exile is removing this thing from play. So you can do that and banish something from the field until it leaves.
So you come and take Ichigo away to the land of the Soul Reapers for a while.
Exactly.
Michiko's Reign of Truth. As this saga enters, and after your... Oh, it's a saga.
It's an enchantment
saga.
This is a enchantment that represents a story.
Oh, wow.
And as you play through, the story will move chapter by chapter. 1, 2, and then 3. And change over time.
That's interesting.
And when it's all done, this one transforms into a creature.
Oh, so it's another backless card that
Yep.
when the story's over, you end with this character in this condition.
In an interesting parallel, we had... where is... Here, it's in this one. We had our character who went on an adventure before arriving. This is a different kind of approach to a similar narrative beat. Going through this entire journey before the character important to it shows up. Two different approaches to that concept, but done in ways that fit the story the set is telling better.
The Dragon Kami Reborn, another saga.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And this...
another copy of Michiko's Reign of Truth.
Oh, you got 2 copies.
Yeah.
And this symbol up here shows that it's the transforming type.
Oh, I see. That's showing it's got 2 sides.
Yeah.
And this is the marker for
Yeah.
cards that don't have backs.
Very nice. But
That is fascinating.
You can see from this the combination of having the Tanuki spirits, but also the cyber ninjas. Kamigami Neo Dynasty was this technology meets nature, the past and the future all mixed together storyline.
Oh, Talon in chat is mentioning Elder Dragon Highlander. I've heard of that as well. Is that where your commander has to be an Elder Dragon?
That was the original name of what became Commander style-wise.
Oh.
There was 5 cards called there were the Elder Dragons in early sets, and people started building a deck around them, and it turned into EDH, Elder Dragon Highlander, which became Commander as people expanded it to play with not just the dragons.
Then there's Canadian Highlander, where you apologize every time you attack. Right? Sorry, no offense to any Canadians watching. It's just a joke. I love Canada.
Absolutely.
I want to get back to Calgary soon. It's a fun town.
Yay. But yeah, we've got a wide variety here of just stories and elements in terms of how Magic uses the same tools to explore.
And they all fit together mathematically. There's nothing keeping you from mixing and matching all these different sets into a deck, playing against someone who has mixed and matched a deck from a totally different set of sets. Mm-hmm. And they'll still have the same fundamental mechanics.
Absolutely. I've got my various commander decks here, and these are mixed and matched from all throughout Magic's history. Different cards, different worlds. I'm mixing these just because of how they play. But yeah, let's
bring them out here.
Bring them out here. But I've got, wildly different kinds of lands altogether. I've got cards from some of the sets we've seen here.
Ecologist's Terrarium. I like that. Pollen Bright Druid. I'm getting a sense of a theme here.
Yep. This is a deck all about, actually about playing out tokens and creating large numbers of these little tiny fungus guys called saprolings. little walking mushroom fighters. But I build this deck is designed around pumping out dozens of these little fungus guys at faster and faster rates, becoming an unending swarm of danger.
So you build those commander decks around a particular kind of strategy or tactic.
Yep, commander decks are built around a single legendary creature.
Yeah.
And you can only use the colors of that legendary creature.
Oh.
And then you build your deck within that framework.
Uh-huh.
100 cards, only one of any card other than a basic land.
Nice.
And so this is 99 cards plus my commander.
So it's a 100-card deck with the commander.
With the commander.
But it all has to be the colors of the commander.
Correct. And some of these lands I've got are
beautiful.
all sorts of different artworks pulled from. I've got cards from newer sets. I've got cards from early sets.
Because in Commander or most Highlander versions, you're not limited by time. You can go back as far as you need to.
Exactly. All sorts of different arts, cards, eras. And this is all about kind of making decks that play well together, that interact in a specific way. And even this kind of tells a story. It's not a set, but the idea of but the fact that I'm trying to focus on all these fungus creatures and such means I wind up with a lot of elves, a lot of other fungus creatures that play well with each other. I wind up with monks and lands that are all about growing and changing over time. This deck also focuses on counters, so there's a lot of cards that add and double, and so there's a theme of growth and primal vigor, doubling season, parallel lives. These names that mean something in their set alone become a narrative when put all together. Kind of like writing a story in that sense, where this becomes its own novel of a tale that I get to play out every single time.
I was talking earlier about fan fiction, and we've kind of come full circle because now I'm starting to think of things I would love to see represented as Magic sets.
Yeah.
I want to see a David Lynch set.
Oh my goodness.
Where you've got characters and events and different things from Twin Peaks and Wild at Heart and Blue Velvet. And this would be interesting.
And I can imagine that. Magic has done things with clue tokens.
I can imagine.
Like literally there's like a recent set that was all about being detective. And so I can imagine like a Twin Peaks set where there's enchantments that take things over and clues and legendary creatures that respond to when other creatures enter the battlefield because there's weird things going on and they're watching each other. And so this is one of my commander decks, but I'm going to grab a different one to show a different story.
All right.
This one is a completely different, goes off of white, red, and black, and this one is all about swords. I've got legendary swords of all different kinds. Sword of the Meek. There's an entire Eater of Virtue, creepy sword here. And there's an entire set of 10 swords that they released over time. Sword of Forge and Frontier. Sword of Body and Mind. There's 10 of these, each of them a pair of colors. When I saw that, I decided to build a deck around that. And so this evolved narratively for me into a deck about noble knights and building my armory as I equip them with these powerful legendary swords over time.
I can understand better what I hear about people making a game itself out of building a deck, coming up with a strategy around it, coming up with a name for it. It may be a long time, if ever, before they get to play that deck, but creating the deck is fun in and of itself.
Creating the deck itself is just enough of an adventure in the story and the options here. So here I am with boots and swords and resplendent cathars and coalition sky knights and all sorts of things as this army of justice kind of builds over time.
That's wild.
Stoneforge mystics searching up and searching my deck for swords, but it feels like they're forging it for my army right there.
Nice.
And there are some people for whom the gameplay is the important thing. They want to play a draft night where they get to play with new cards and try it out, and they don't want to keep a collection.
Sure.
For other people, the collection is the huge thing because they love the art. For other people, it's because they love the story. They love the narrative. And not everything has to be as dramatic as this. I'm working on another commander deck. I'll tell everyone right now. the entire theme is purely card art of people sitting in chairs. Just build a deck, but you can think, since 92, how many kings, how many people on chairs, how many people waiting in the bar for their next adventure to come along. How many artwork of people in chairs have there been?
So you will be the chairman.
I can build that. It's like constructing IKEA. I'm there just building, and it's nothing but chairs. I'm excited for it.
That
but
is
the
cool.
fact that there can even be comedy sets like that,
That is
works. Oh goodness. And they're talking about the fact that like there's cards like Wraths, which like Wrath of God, which is a destroy everything.
Oh,
the flavor of
Deck
cards.
full of wraths.
Deck full of Wraths, and there's a card called Wrath of God that gets named off of, where that same idea of where Millstone became a narrative piece. There's cards that influence and change entire concepts of sets and names and themes of other cards later on. It's a conversation in that sense. But I'm excited to get to talk about Magic as a narrative element overall. And I'm kind of delving into it here, But
yeah, that's going to be our next podcast episode.
Yes.
Is going to be Ian's takeover talking about Magic the Gathering. And just as watching a movie is a prerequisite to us talking about it, me playing this game with him has been a prerequisite to that next episode. And I'm really looking forward to it.
absolutely.
Because this was a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. I'd love for you to be
played most of a game, and I really want to play some more.
Oh yeah. So yeah, take a look at the cards we've got here.
Yeah.
Have a fun time exploring, reviewing them, and we'll see all of you when we get to chat about that and discuss Magic as a narrative element.
Yes, and thank you very much, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the recording. I really appreciate you being here. If you want more about the Intermillennium Media Project podcast, go to IMMProject.com. Where you'll find links to our Discord, a link to our Patreon, a link to our shop, and every one of our back episodes, which is almost 150 regular episodes now.
Absolutely.
We're getting there.
Oh yeah.
So, thanks very much. We'll be back soon.
Thank you.